of seven.
On this best of seven series
of a best of seven series.
Welcome to the Best of Seven podcast.
Welcome to episode number 8 of the Best of 7 podcast. I am your host, Brandon Plant from SENS. In this episode, we're going to break down a few things. Firstly, The Last Dance documentary, episodes 5 through 8. Lots of things revealed about Michael Jordan and the Bulls through the 90s, and we're going to get into incredible depth very soon. As well, we're going to talk about Brendan Leipzig, Jack Rodwald, and a couple other hockey players' disgusting and misogynistic remarks that were unveiled through Instagram DMs. It was leaked, and I'll definitely give you my take on that. Trust me, Leipzig is not a stand-up person. As well, after we're done talking about Leipzig and the Last Dance documentary, we're going to break down a proposed 2020 Major League Baseball draft, a proposal from the Major League Baseball commissioner himself, Rob Manfred. This proposal for the 2020 draft is just ludicrous. But anyways, Noah, before we get into it and reveal too much about the show, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I just want to give a shout out to all the mothers out there. We just passed Mother's Day, and I know that I'm very appreciative of my mother and what she has done for me. And mothers are just great. They make crazy sacrifices for their kids, and they do things that they don't want to do just to make sure that their kids are happy and healthy, and for that I'm thankful.
I wouldn't be the man I am today without my mom being in my life. One of the biggest inspirations I have, one of the biggest role models I have, and everything that I have today is because of her and, of course, my dad. But, we got to be thankful for those great mothers out there. So thank you, Mom, and thank you to all those great mothers out there. Now let's get into the first topic. Scott Sabourin will be joining the Best of 7 podcast next week, episode number 9. Senators forward Scott Sabourin will be joining the show. Noah, how pumped are you for that?
I'm extremely pumped. We're getting an NHL player on the podcast. I never thought 9 episodes in that was going to happen. I'm very excited.
Oh, by the way, it's a 2-month anniversary. Happy 2-month anniversary.
2 months, not bad.
There we go. 2 months, so far so good. I think we're still alive. Things are running, so we're doing all right. Right?
Yeah, we're doing okay.
Yeah, all things considered, we're doing okay. Speaking of okay things, I'm looking really forward to Scott Sabourin and talking about his journey to the National Hockey League. And yeah, just honestly, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be one of the best interviews I've ever done. And I'm really excited to give you guys and girls that episode. Just stay tuned for a week and a bit. It will be out. Now, let's get to some misogynistic comments from Brendan Leipzig, former Washington Capitals forward, and Jack Rodwald, former Senators forward, now current Florida Panther. They had some comments along with others, their friends, I assume. Their comments were leaked on Instagram, Twitter, etc. They were very misogynistic, very sexist, very rude to women and their teammates. In response, pardon me, the Capitals cut Leipzig. He's put on a conditional waiver. His contract was terminated, rightfully so. When you are openly being sexist about your teammates' wives and other women and calling your teammates idiots and calling them other disgusting, terrible remarks, you have no place in the NHL. You have no place to be making a big contract like that. There's people that are better than you that deserve that money. And I'm really happy that Leipzig is gone, because talking trash like that behind your teammates' backs and the specific comments that he was saying, just so sexist, so misogynistic, so rude and disgusting. Thank God this guy is out of the league, and hopefully for good. It just shows how disgusting some of this hockey culture is sometimes.
It puts a bad name on hockey, and that's obviously not how most NHLers act, thankfully, and we just got to make sure that we keep the reputation of the NHL of players that give to charities, players that are very acknowledging of people's issues and gender issues and stuff like that. And we don't need to have those kinds of comments. Whether it's private or not, you're an NHL player. You got to be a role model for a bunch of young boys and girls. And when you come out with comments like that, it's disgusting.
It's one thing, they have the right to say what they want, and the team has the right to cut them. So they both got what they deserved. Leipzig got cut, and the Capitals did the right thing. So I believe, you can say what you want, but there's a consequence for saying stupid stuff, and Leipzig thankfully got the consequences, because what he said is inexcusable, disgusting, and it just shows that there is an issue in hockey culture. We've seen it with Bill Peters, we've seen it with Mike Babcock, and now we're seeing with players. It's unfortunate. There's a lot of great hockey players out there with great personalities and great people, but unfortunately, we see stuff like this, and it's just disheartening. It's disgusting, and hopefully it stops, because there's no place for this type of conduct anywhere at all, and it's 2020, and this stuff shouldn't be happening. Moving forward now, soccer leagues in Europe are opening up their leagues. Bundesliga, for example, mid-May to early June, we may see some live sports again, ladies and gentlemen, so stay tuned for that. Speaking of live sports, UFC 249, I didn't watch it. I'm not really a fighting guy, but based off what people are saying, it looks really fun. I might have to check it out. Noah, what do you think about UFC?
Oh, I love watching the UFC. So when they announced that 249 was going to come back, I was excited. And I didn't watch it. I was a bit tired that day because it's in the evening. But I did watch the highlights. I was excited. And I didn't really feel that much it didn't feel that much worse without the fans. I still had the hype in me because I've been missing sports for so long. So exactly. I'm very happy that they are running UFC.
I've gotten to the point where I'm craving live sports so much, and I'm probably going to get flack for this from my friends. I've watched marble racing. That's given me the excitement. Marble racing. Go Bulls. Yeah. Moving forward now, the Last Dance documentary. Now, in last episode, I already commented on this. I had a few mistakes. I got a couple things mixed up. So in honor of me saying Michael Jordan used to play for the Orlando Magic, he actually played for the Washington Wizards. So in honor of that, I'm wearing a Wizards shirt. I do apologize for those mistakes. Noah, episode 5 and 6, we saw many things, including the All-Star break, where we saw Kobe versus Michael Jordan in the All-Star game. We also saw Michael Jordan win the All-Star MVP in 1996. He had plenty in the tank after returning from the early retirement. And, of course, media was a factor in driving Jordan from the game. So, Noah, we learned a lot through 5 and 6 of the Last Dance documentary. Primarily, it focused on the dominance of Michael Jordan and the media factor. So what did you take from those first 2 episodes there?
Oh, they're very interesting because obviously every episode's interesting. You don't get that insight usually, and now there's these 49 to 50-minute episodes, and so that was very interesting. But I think just seeing how the All-Star team that was on Jordan's side was reacting to how Kobe was playing, he's not going to do all that well. We're going to ice him, and he actually kind of did pretty well. And
MVP.
No, it's great. It's game-recognizing game almost, and it was great to see Kobe make an appearance, obviously, and talk about his relationship with Michael Jordan. That was also very good.
It was nice to see the trade-off of the greatest of all time to the next greatest. That was Kobe, right? This was his first All-Star game in his first year in the National Basketball Association, and it was nice to get the behind the scenes of it. You know, you don't get that access often. Seeing it's sort of like Crosby and McDavid for hockey terms. Crosby isn't the greatest of all time, but I think you get what I mean. Just getting to see behind the scenes where the respect that they had for each other and just the drive that they both had to be the best they can be was really inspirational, really fun to watch. And, it was, of course, seeing Kobe, unseen footage of Kobe was, special, especially after the tragic events earlier this year. So, it was really nice to see Kobe. It was really cool to see camaraderie between Kobe and Michael Jordan and how they both worked with each other to make themselves better and how Kobe based his game off of Michael Jordan. I think the insight that we saw through those episodes was interesting. But on top of that, we take a look up until episode number 6 now, we're looking at Michael Jordan's gambling addiction. They're calling it a gambling addiction. The guy is competitive. I don't know. Gambling addiction or not, it's really not it's not our business. It's his personal life. And this is where I took a little bit of come on, that the way the media was treating Michael Jordan. Regardless of who you are, personal choices have consequences, yes, but no one needs to be harassed by the media over personal choices. And this didn't affect any of his family members. This didn't affect his game, any of his games, and it didn't affect his play. This wasn't a Pete Rose moment where he bet against himself or for himself. What he does on his off time shouldn't be our business. And just to see how the media really pushed Jordan out, along, of course, with the tragic things that happened with his father, which we'll get to in episode 7 and 8. It was just disheartening to see how the media really treated the star. And we see that often, New York and Toronto, famous examples, Phil Kessel defending Dion Phaneuf. The media really has a hard effect on, these athletes. We're definitely going to ask Scott Sabourin about that. But Noah, what do you got to say about that?
Yeah, it's for me. I get what your job is. Your job is to interview players and ask them about everything.
Get the
There
flashy
is a
headline,
point
right?
though
Yeah.
when you are one of the factors that drives one of the best player in basketball history out of the game because he was so mentally tired. He was tired from answering these absurd questions about, are you addicted to gambling? Are you retiring this year? Every single game. I just don't like the fact that media just likes to swarm a player the second that they're done their games or done their meetings. And I really wish that they could take a step back and really only go for press conferences. Press conferences are fine. But if you're swarming a guy, you're walking with him as he walks to the airplane or something like that. Like, that's too much for me. And you can ask your questions during a press conference. We can have a longer press conference just so you don't have to swarm a player like that, because that really gets to their mental health.
What I agree. The mental health aspect is huge because as fans, as media, because I'm sort of both, and as just general spectators of the game that we love, basketball, baseball, hockey, etc., we often forget that these athletes, these superhumans, they're human. They have feelings. They have issues. They're just like us with great skill. So we need to treat these people with respect, and we're starting to do that more and more as mental health is becoming more of a realization that this is a real issue that we need to tackle. And it was terrible. I don't know necessarily if we should just get press conferences. I'm fine with swarming the players. I'm fine with this and that, as long as it's with good taste, because the players know that's coming, and the media also has a job. They need the flashy headlines, they need the clip, but there's a certain amount of respect, and there's a crossing the line that the media did here. So overall, we're going to get to that in episode 7 and 8. Just the media really did some big damage to Michael Jordan's mental health, in my opinion, because in episode 7 and 8, we saw here tragically Michael Jordan's dad was killed. I don't really remember. I don't really know the full story. They didn't really go into it too much. But he was driving home or something, and he went to take a nap in his car, and then he was shot in the chest, I believe, and he was killed, thrown to the river. Michael Jordan had he was best friends with his father, and this really crushed Michael Jordan. This was in 1993. We saw this in episode 7 and 8. And the episode 7 and 8 showed, what the documentary really showed us, was how cruel the media is. On top of the devastation of losing your father through murder. Michael Jordan already has the mental fatigue and the physical fatigue. Now he's the mental fatigue. His father just passed away. He just got murdered, fatally shot, okay, for no apparent reason. And the media begins to insinuate that Michael Jordan somehow had a role in his father's death due to his gambling problems. How dare they? Come on. There is trying to get a good headline, and there's just disgusting, barbaric remarks like that. And to give a young man to insinuate that he had a role in his father's death as he's just gripping with the realization that his father is dead, that is just messed up. That is messed up. And the documentary really showed how the media, a few members of the Chicago media or national media, really spun this disgusting and obviously false story. They get clicks. This is just barbaric, Noah. This is just barbaric.
Barbaric is the right term. They were also trying to insinuate that it had to do with his gambling problems. For me, it's just not true. Obviously, Jordan did not take part in killing his father. For me, it's absurd because
it's ludicrous.
You already swarm this guy every game, carrying the team, scoring 40 points a night, and now you want to keep him up top of the news, but with negative news of, what did Jordan have to say about his father? Did he lose a bet with his father? Or something? What the heck is that? That, for me, it's just absurd to me. Absurd.
What was interesting to see, though, is it was actually emotional to watch how Michael Jordan and his father, how close and deep their relationship was, because I have a good relationship with my dad, and I'm very thankful for that. I thank God every day for the close relationship I have with my parents. It's something I don't take for granted, and I never will. But seeing how close Jordan and his father was, and seeing how he passed away, we took a look at the 1995 or 90, was it 95, 96, a year or two after he returned, and how the Bulls won a championship for the first year. I think it was against Supersonics. Yeah, the first year in his return against the Supersonics. The emotion that he displayed through the documentary now and back then, his father was his rock, and he just collapsed to the ground crying, understandably, after winning that championship, and still to the day, of course, gets emotional. And we all know the story of Michael Jordan retiring in '93 and then going on to sign with the White Sox, get a contract, and try to make the Major League Baseball. I didn't really know this at the time. I knew sort of that it was kind of because of his father, but now I know, because watching the documentary, I really know now that this was because the last conversation that Michael Jordan and his father had was about whether or not Michael Jordan should retire and play baseball. Michael Jordan's father, according to the documentary, according to Michael himself, always wanted Michael to play baseball. He was a great athlete, played up until when he was 17. So in honor of his father, he was emotionally and mentally and physically tired of playing basketball, and he wanted to take the next step in his life. And in memoriam of his father and in honor of his father, I think that's a big factor into why he played baseball. And you know what, Noah? Michael Jordan had a pretty solid Double-A year. He signed with the Chicago White Sox. He retired in 1993 and then signed with the White Sox in '94. In his first 13 games in the month of April, he had a 13-game hitting streak. That obviously subsided when they threw him curveballs and stuff. But overall, he had a .202 average in his first year of Double-A baseball. Francesca, the manager now for the Cleveland Indians, at the time the Birmingham Bulls or whatever in Alabama, I have difficulty saying that, my bad. But that Major League Baseball manager now for the Indians was the manager at the time for the Alabama team, Birmingham or something. And basically, he says to the day, and the Bulls owner too says to the day, that Michael Jordan for sure would have been a Major League Baseball player. No, what does that say about the skill and the athlete that Michael Jordan is and the drive that he has?
It's going to be really tough to ever see a human who can be so skilled at two very different sports, that they can be not only skilled, but they could be at the top level. Like, I'm sure that if Jordan kept on grinding baseball, he could have gone to the MLB and been decent. And
for sure,
maybe not the GOAT, but
no, but he would have been a solid utility player, right?
Yeah, and so just seeing it, obviously, it's just another angle to appreciate how good of an athlete Michael Jordan is in all sense of the word. If you want him to get out of baseball, he'll go straight to, or get out of basketball, he'll go straight to baseball. He'll hit 200. Honestly, hitting I can hit 200. So if any other basketball player, I'm sure every other basketball player might hit 0.25. So
yeah,
someone hitting 200 in Double-A is a very good achievement for a basketball player like Michael Jordan.
And keep in mind, the last time he played baseball was when he was 17. He signed his contract for Double-A, or with the Major League Baseball Chicago White Sox, when he was 31. He hadn't played baseball in almost 15 years. Okay, and Michael Jordan, after almost a 15-year absence, am I getting the math wrong? Yeah, about a 17-year absence. I'm not going to do the math in my head. Michael Jordan, a 15-year absence, okay, hit 202 against baseball players that have been grinding to make the Major League, the show for years. That tells you this guy might have been one of the best athletes we've seen in our lifetime, because well, not in my lifetime, but like in our generation or before lifetime, because you know what? It's very rare we see the likes of Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan, these two sport athletes. Firstly, I'd love to see it again. I don't know about you. I'd love to see an athlete play two sports. That'd be kind of fun.
Maybe Kyler Murray.
Maybe. Imagine.
There was big talk that he wasn't going to play football and he'd go play for the Oakland Athletics, but
more money in football. More money in football, right?
Yeah.
How funny would that be? One day you see Kyler Murray throwing a pass to DeAndre Hopkins for the touchdown. The next day, he's hitting a grand slam in Oakland Stadium. Just imagine that.
That would be crazy.
That'd be fun, though. I might have to become a Kyler Murray fan if he does that. But yeah, honestly, if it wasn't for the player strike, which also, by the way, let's talk about this for a second. The player strike kind of screwed over the Montreal Expos of a championship, which then put them into a downward spiral, which ended up having them move out of Montreal. Noah, I know we weren't alive really for the Expos era. We were really young. We were like 5 or 4 when they left. But with the Expos potentially coming back, do you think that we can see a championship in Montreal one day?
Oh, well, there's obviously a chance. You never know.
From redemption.
I'm not sure how soon that championship would come. I think it's very different than a hockey expansion team where
that's what
like you see the Vegas Golden Knights, they made it to the finals. Like that, there was no chance a baseball team would do that. Now, if let's say the Tampa Bay Rays, who have had a lot of talk about this, move to Montreal to be the new Montreal Expos, then there's a big chance, because the Tampa Bay Rays are already a really good baseball team. And so I would love to see the Montreal Expos be a very good competitive team. And I would like to say that if their Montreal Expos ever came back, I would devote my fandom to the Montreal Expos, because right now I'm sort of just watching baseball.
I'm a Jays fan, but I definitely become an Expos fan too. I know my father is a diehard Expos fan. Always will be, always was, always will be. Same thing with my grandfather. And I know the first game, I will definitely be at the opening game. However, I think COVID-19 will definitely put us, a big dent to those chances, because we're not seeing teams move around anytime soon, because lots of money is being lost because our economy is going to crap, if you haven't realized. But that's not for now to talk about. For now, we should talk about how the player strike not only screwed over the Expos of a championship, it also might have been the reason why Michael Jordan returned to baseball. He started practicing again during that strike after walking out from the White Sox facility. He started practicing with the Bulls team again and rejoined them late in their season when they were doing really bad, brought them to a second round defeat. But yeah, the player strike screwed over the fan base of Montreal, but it was the savior potentially for Chicago Bulls fans. So trade-off, right? Like,
I'll take a couple extra rings if Jordan doesn't play a couple years. It's you give some to get some.
Everything happens for a reason, right?
Exactly.
Speaking of Major League Baseball, I know you don't like this one. This one pisses me off. From Ottawa, we're from Ottawa, and we've had a AAA team here. We've had AA teams here. The Ottawa Lynx, the last Major League Baseball affiliate team we've had here. They left like in the early 2000s when the Expos left. They were the Expos AAA affiliate. We had many players come through here. We had the Ottawa champions, league champions, by the way, in their second year. They're done. So as Ottawa natives, we've seen many prospects and young players come through the, of course, the developmental leagues of Major League Baseball. And, of course, we've seen the independent leagues. Now, the proposal by the Major League Baseball around Manfred and the rest of the executives is to have a 5-round 2020 national Major League Baseball draft, pardon me. And it looks like this is happening. Jeff Payson reported this. Noah, before I give my take, I want to hear yours, because this is going to have a big long-term effect for years to come, when it doesn't have to have an effect. It looks like the Major League Baseball is choosing to kind of screw over a lot of prospects.
That's exactly right. Like, it's beyond me why there would ever need to be a change to the MLB draft. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players who their dreams, they get realized, and they can have a chance to go to the MLB, whether it's a big chance or not. That doesn't matter. They still get drafted by an MLB team. They get to talk to the general manager and he says, you get drafted. And for me, going to 5 rounds for a sport that needs the most players, more than football, because there's AA, AAA, single A,
and then
more than hockey,
yeah,
more than basketball, more than soccer. Yeah. And they're going to have the shortest draft of almost all of them, except for basketball. They're going to have a shorter draft than the NFL. They're going to have a shorter draft than the NHL. For me, it's absurd. And it's you could have trimmed it down a little bit, but to 5 rounds? You think that there's only going to be 150 talented baseball players who can be in this draft? There's going to be way more than that who are top 5 eligible. For me, it's disgusting, and it's another step in showing that Rob Manfred's not competent at all. Yeah. I've never liked this guy, and I just hope that he gets out soon. Obviously, that won't happen, though.
Rob Manfred is the biggest joke I might have ever seen. This guy mishandled the Astros investigation. The Red Sox didn't get an adequate penalty. They won a World Series off of cheating. So I don't know why the Astros, with their drumming and stuff, they get their wrists snapped with a handcuff. But the Red Sox get away scot clean. No problems. I don't quite understand why the Red Sox are fine. Manfred is a complete joke, and this just shows it. He's cutting 40 to 60 independent or like minor league teams. Affiliates of Major League Baseball. They're cutting like 40 teams. So that's thousands of jobs gone in small communities. So he's crushing small communities. On top of that, a 5-round draft makes no sense, regardless if there's COVID-19, regardless if you're lowering the amount of teams there are in affiliate baseball. Because all you're doing now is you are cutting 35 potential rounds of talent of Major League players. You're killing the route for many players to succeed, and now this will have long-term effects on Major League Baseball. I can name you hundreds of of skilled, elite, Gold Glove, All-Star players that come out of rounds 5+. All right, you can take a look at Kevin Pillar. This is not the prime example, but he came in the late 20th round. He's a Gold Glove winner. Like, I don't quite understand what this is. Why you need to do this? You could do it all virtually. And just because you're losing some affiliate teams doesn't mean you have to cut it down to 5 rounds. You're losing talents, like I just said with Kevin Pillar, incompetence at the highest level from Rob Manfred, and honestly, he's making a Major League Baseball a joke. And this decision, if it comes to fruition, will have long-term effects not only on the talent in Major League Baseball, because it will have an effect. We've seen guys come out of nowhere from late round like Pete Alonso, right? It's out of nowhere. We're now going to see the talent potentially dip. We're going to see players that work their whole lives to get an opportunity get screwed over. We're going to see many affiliate and independent teams get crowded with talent of players. And there's just not going to be enough teams to sign all these guys. And on top of that, the money they're going to get signed with is not adequate to the amount they would have got through the draft. So overall, this is just a crapshoot. Just terrible. And Rob Manfred is the worst commissioner in sports right now, for sure.
100%.
Moving forward now, Brady. Was he worn out by offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels? According to NFL reporter Gary Myers, Brady was worn out by offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels after 12 seasons together, a source told the reporter. Noah, what do you think of that?
I wouldn't be surprised. You've seen a couple of his on-screen battles with Josh McDaniels. There's that famous one where you got Tony Romo analyzing it, and sort of like a father-son sort of fight. But in all seriousness, I wouldn't be surprised. There were many, many rumors of McDaniels leaving the Patriots for a couple of years now, and the fact that he's staying, it might have been that he and Bill Belichick might not have had the best of relationship, and now you have Brady, who also had a feud with Belichick. It's just a big it's a cluster of arguments between the top most important pieces of that Patriots dynasty. And I would not be surprised if that was confirmed, or if it was explained by Brady himself or McDaniels. I'm sure that there were some growing pains in that relationship. Many, many growing pains, I'm sure.
Well, what I think is, as a 49ers fan, I have a unique perspective on this. We started hearing about turmoil in the Patriots locker room, and we started hearing about rumors of, or speculation of, what's going to happen with Brady's contract. Not ironically, or consequent, not even, there's a correlation here that when Jimmy Garoppolo was traded to the 49ers, that created turmoil in the Patriots organization. Rob Kraft didn't want to, or was it Bill Belichick didn't want to trade him, but Tom Brady wanted to be the starting quarterback. So Rob Kraft obviously was going to do what he needed to do to keep the GOAT on his team, which of course didn't really work. He's gone now, but they got rid of Jimmy G. They got rid of Brissett. Brady's there. So now there's a there's a mismatch of we shouldn't have traded Jimmy G. Tom Brady, he's the GOAT, but Jimmy G was the future. We traded our future for a second-round pick. So there was plenty of turmoil in the Patriots organization, and I think this, like you said, is not shocking. We've heard rumors for the last year or two, of course, after Jimmy G was traded 3.5 years ago, or 4 years ago now, maybe even 3 years ago, pardon me, that there's been turmoil between Bill Belichick. We've seen Josh McDaniels potentially leave. That probably has correlation, like you said. Rob Kraft giving the go-ahead to trade Jimmy G. Overall, not shocking, not surprising. That organization the last few years had breakup all written all over it. No one wanted to admit it because we never could have imagined the Patriots dynasty ending because it lasted like 20 years and still technically hasn't ended. However, I think it's safe to say that it's done for at least 1 year when they tanked for Trevor Lawrence. But yeah, not shocking at all. Tom Brady needed a scene change. And of course, it's just like being in a family, right? Once you're living in a home with somebody for about 20 years, you're going to have turmoil. It's expected and it's a given, right? So this shouldn't shock anyone at all.
Not at all.
Moving forward now, the Ontario government, if you're international, if you're from America or Russia or wherever, some international country, Ontario is a province in Canada. So this is the local, like it's like a state. In America, it's a state in Canada, the province of Ontario in Canada. The government of Ontario announced that team facilities for professional sports teams in Ontario can now open as long as they follow the safety protocols set by their respective leagues. So the Toronto Blue Jays, of course, the Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Maple Leafs and the CFL even. You got the Red Blacks and you got the Argonauts and, of course, MLS, etc. These pro teams are now given the green light to open their facilities, which is big for potential, hub cities. We've seen the opportunity of Toronto being a hub city for the NHL. This gives them the go-ahead now to potentially have training camp in Toronto. This gives the league's options. So, Noah, what do you think of this?
I'm not sure how massive of news it is. Obviously, facilities reopening is big, but I don't think it's going to really speed up the process of the leagues themselves reopening. Obviously, I think that players need to practice and teams need to practice just in case it opens sooner than we think. And I think that's really what it is. I don't think it's a massive piece of news, but I do think that it's something to keep an eye on. Hopefully within the next couple of months, you get like a date. And once you get a date, you're excited. And then you never know.
It's the first step, right? So
exactly.
You can't go anywhere. You can't start anywhere. And you can't make any plans without that first step. Do we have permission to open the facilities, which is the first step? Teams in Ontario have that. So the first step has been completed. Let's see what the respective leagues do moving forward now. We've seen rumors of Major League Baseball eyeing a mid-June return to spring training. We shall see. Plenty of things up in the air. And once again, by the time you're listening to this tomorrow, well, today's Monday, so tomorrow, I'm sure the news will be different. So it's all up in the air. This virus is changing things by the minute. Moving forward now, speaking of how the virus is changing things, the NBA wants to keep the best-of-7 format if the NBA season and or playoffs continue. So if the playoffs continue, they want the format to remain best-of-7, just like the best-of-7 podcast. That'd be great for us, with our name. However, I think for the league, this is not the best-case scenario. I think they should go back to having a 5-game series in the first round, expand that to the second round, and the conference and league finals will be set best-of-7. Because right now you're trying to limit the impact of the next season as possible, and this wouldn't be out of left field for basketball, because it's already happened in the last decade. There was 5-game series, so for 1 year to save the next season, I don't see why not. If the league returns, I think that's the best route to have minimal impact on the future of the league and their seasons. But anyways, Noah, what do you think of that?
I would even go a little further. I kind of like what baseball has in their playoff structure, where they sort of increase the amount of total games in a series, like as we go along. Even so, you obviously got the wild card game, and then you got the ALDS, or the division series, which is best of 5, and then you have the championship series and the World Series that are both best of 7. I thought just like a blank, like a straight off my mind proposal, if like the first round of basketball was like best 2 out of 3. Second round of basketball is best 3 out of 5. And then the conference final or conference finals and then the championship are both best to 7. That saves a lot of energy. It's like if the amount of games at the first round, like obviously the first round, the amount of playoff contenders go from 16 to 8. So that's a bunch of players that don't have to play 7 full games. Instead, they might have to play 3, which can save a lot of their health. It can get them ready for next year, but also you want to have a full championship. So you're going to keep that best of 7 for the finals and the conference finals. So for me, that's just like a straight off my mind idea that I think would work fine for basketball. For me, it works.
I can't disagree. I think the point of the players and their ability to play long periods of time is something that will need to be taken into account. These players are all at home right now. None of these professional players, unless like the European soccer players, none of these players in North America have been given access to adequate and reasonable equipment, training facilities, etc. So these players are going to need 2 to 3 weeks to just get up to game speed, let alone playing. So I agree. The less games, the better, to limit injuries and to preserve an entertaining product. I agree, for sure. Moving forward now, some unfortunate news for hockey fans, specifically fans of the Ottawa Senators. The AHL announced today that their league season and playoffs will be canceled, and they will not be playing games for the remainder of this year, and the next season may be in question as well. Probably will go ahead as scheduled, but we shall see. Why I say we shall see is the main source of income for the American Hockey League, which is the affiliate league of the National Hockey League, is ticket sales. And without tickets, there is no point of playing games. So without fans in the stadiums next year, we might see a pushback to the 2020-2021 season in the AHL because, you know what? Without fans in the seats, is it profitable? It's clearly not, and that means there's no game. So, Noah, what do you think happens here?
Yeah, I have hope that it's just going to continue as normal, but you never know at this point. There have been things that you never thought would have been canceled. They're getting canceled and moved back. So you just hope that it's sort of an asterisk on the season. We're lucky we still got 70 or so games in the NHL. So we got to see a lot of development out of some players in the AHL still.
Yeah, we did.
Players that have done well, players that haven't. And so we still sort of have a story on that 2020 season, but it would be great if we started on time next year, October or whatever. Let's just cross our fingers. Not much we can do other than stay home, stay safe, and just hope that it works out.
Yeah. Honestly, it's unfortunate because we, as SENS fans and as Ottawa natives, there's 2 things that's happened now. This team has really good odds at first overall, so that's a good thing. Now, here are the bad things of being from Ottawa and a hockey fan. The Ottawa 67s of the OHL, of the Canadian Hockey League, it's for the players that get drafted to the professional leagues. Their season got canceled, and they were projected to be the OHL champions and the Canadian Hockey League Memorial Cup champions. So that's bittersweet. And now we put on top of that the AHL Belleville Senators, the Senators affiliate of Ottawa. They had a really good shot, if not the best shot, at the Calder Trophy there. So just unfortunate news, but and of course for the development of these hockey players in the Senators organization. However, it was probably the right call. If you can't make profits and you're losing a bunch of money, you're just risking the future of the league. So let's save the league now before we kill it later, right? So let's save it or before it gets killed, right? So it's the right decision. It's just an unfortunate one.
It's unfortunate for sure.
No, do you want to get to the next one?
Yeah, sure. There have been some stories that are going around about, like, you've seen Jumbo Joe shaving his beard. But there's also some video. Beard check. You're still in the early stages, buddy. Still in the early stages.
I'm a little young, but it's definitely better than Brady Tkachuk's. That guy can't grow anything.
No, not at all. But you've also seen some videos of players who are all serious and they're still practicing, and you see these training videos. There's guys like Freddie Freeman in the MLB, James Harrison, is he retired? He's pretty old.
Yeah.
Defensive end in the NFL. And you also got, of course, Russell Wilson. And it's pretty interesting, honestly, to see how a lot of guys have been having their families involved and getting their little kids. Those are the cutest ones, when the players have their kids film, or when they have their kids in the videos or reacting to it. Those are fun. So it's good to see all the players that are finding ways to cope with the quarantine environment.
I saw a crazy video from Mark Borietzky on the National Hockey League's Twitter feed. I think he was pulling weights with his mouth or tongue or something. It was something crazy. It was, you got to check it out. It was insane. So yeah, these players getting really creative with these workouts, and you got to do what you got to do when you're in a big pause to a competitive season, right? Mm-hmm. Moving forward now, Las Vegas. They've been in the news a lot, and they've been in the news a lot in this podcast as well. Last week, he spoke about how they potentially can hold a bunch of leagues to continue their season. Now we're talking about how the Las Vegas community is potentially naming streets after the 2018 Golden Knights team that went all the way to the Stanley Cup Final in their inaugural year. Potential names, Noah: Slurry Road, Marshall Crescent, Smith Street, Carlson Avenue. What do you think about that? I love this idea.
We'll see how it goes, because they're going to have the Raiders there, although the Raiders probably aren't going to be that good ever, because they're a pretty laughable franchise. However, maybe the Raiders will also get street names. You got Ruggs Street and Derek Carr Lane or whatever. But I like Derek the idea. It's a fun idea. It's fun news that we don't get a lot.
I'd love to live on Derek Carr Lane. Oh, where do you live? Oh, I just live on Derek Carr Lane. Oh, yeah. Wait, Carr Lane? What do you mean? No. Derek Carr, the quarterback. That lane.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's what I wish one day, to have a street named after an athlete. That's fun. That's a story. Speaking of athletes and stories, terrible story over the week. Giannis Antetokounmpo. I can never pronounce his last name.
Giannis.
Yeah,
Antetokounmpo, I got you.
Appreciate it, man. That's why we're best friends. Anyways, Giannis, his Twitter was hacked, and he said some really disgusting things. Some racist remarks, some sexist remarks, and some terrible remarks in regards to LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. Not much to say. Obviously, Giannis didn't mean any of these things, but it's important to mention, because just like Brendan Leipzig, there are terrible people out there with terrible opinions, and they want to get those opinions out and just ruin people's days. So, yeah.
Past that, there's not really much else to say about that one. Good thing that Giannis got hold of his Twitter account, probably put a couple passwords in, and he's all good to go.
Yeah, it's just lock your Twitter account. Don't be like Sean Spicer, former press secretary. He tweeted out his password. Regardless of politics, that is funny. Just tweeting your password as a press secretary. That's funny. Anyways, to recap things, I hope everyone enjoyed this podcast episode. We had a lot of fun doing it. I did. I don't know if you did, Noah.
No, I'm having a good time.
Yeah, you seem to be having a great time. You're smiling there, all hunky-dory. But to keep you smiling and keep me smiling and keep y'all smiling, Scott Sabourin will be joining episode number 9. Noah, just to recap this again, how excited, how pumped are you? Scott Sabourin, Senators forward, will be on the show in 1 week's time.
It's going to be a great episode. We're going to get to hear so many things about, inside of being an NHL player, his road to the show, basically, on how he got to being on the Ottawa Senators, and many more things. And I'm very excited to hear from Scott about his journey. Yeah, he's a great person, and I really do look forward to meeting him. So we will see you all next week with Senators forward Scott Sabourin. But Noah, before I end things, why don't you tell everyone where they can listen to us and follow us on social media? Sure. So you guys can follow us on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook at SENS Talk Podcast. And you can also find us basically anywhere, streaming platforms. You got SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, Apple Music, all 4 of those at the Best of 7 Podcast. And as well, check out SENS Talk on YouTube. Make that red button gray. And make that red button, make it gray, baby. Exactly. That's where you can find us. Obviously, we appreciate all the support that we've been getting the first couple episodes. We really do. The support we've gotten. This is the 2-month anniversary video
podcast episode. And, you know, all the support we've gotten on YouTube, hundreds of views, the hundreds of views we've gotten on Spotify and all the other platforms. We really do appreciate the support. We appreciate the positive feedback that we're getting. We are doing our best, especially with the situation that we're in because of COVID-19. And you know what? I hope we're bringing a little bit of happiness to your lives, because right now the normalcy is gone. It's a really scary time to be alive. But, you know, hopefully for an hour or less, more or less each week, hopefully we bring a little bit of positivity into your life. Noah, thank you so much for joining us again today. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And of course, be sure to stay home, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you all next week for episode number 9 of the Best of 7 podcast. As Senators forward Scott Sabourin will join the show. We will see you all next week. So excited. And remember to stay home, stay safe, and stay healthy. That's it for the Best of 7 podcast. I am your host, Brandon Plant. This is Noah Luden, and we will see you all next week.